is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Rwanda honors those killed in the genocide 25 years ago. The UN calls for an urgent truce to evacuate civilians wounded in Libya. And on World Health Day, health campaigners in Uganda push for more radiotherapy machines as the number of cancer patients grows. Hello and a warm welcome to Africa Live on CGTN. I'm Lindy Mtongana in Nairobi. Also coming up this half hour. Hundreds of tourists climbed Cape Town's Table Mountain to raise funds for charity. Well, let's start in Libya, where the army supporting the UN-backed national government has announced a counter-offensive in defense of the capital, Tripoli. A senior military officer told the media that the operation is aimed at reclaiming areas seized by the advancing Libya National Army, which is allied to Eastern Commander Khalifa Haftar. Earlier on, the United States evacuated its troops from the North African nation. The United Nations is also calling on the two sides to implement a ceasefire to allow the evacuation of UN personnel. The situation in Libya is threatening to escalate after Haftar announced that his troops will soon start using air power in their quest to take Tripoli. Well, let's bring you more on these latest developments in Libya. We're now joined by CGTN's Adel Al-Makhroui in Cairo, where he has been following these dramatic events. Adel, of course, as we understand, the UN calling for a truce to evacuate civilians and those wounded. Do we know whether the rival sides will adhere to this call?
There isn't any sign of response from either side towards the UN calls for a truce. The GNA, the Government of National Accord, that is backed and supported by the United Nations, is quite overwhelmed by defending its headquarters in Tripoli, as Libya National Army led by General Khalifa Haftar are trying to advance. Just a few minutes ago, the spokesman of the LNA forces, Ahmed al-Mismari, announced that they have for the first time launched airstrikes against some locations inside Tripoli. He also said that their troops are continuing with their approach towards the Libyan capital, yet stressing that they are targeting only terrorist elements and terrorist groups, despite the accusations from Faiz Sarraj that this is a violation of all agreements between al-Sarraj and Haftar, between the Eastern and Western governments. But they are continuing, and it seems that they are starting to escalate their offensive against the rivals' Western government in Tripoli.
I mean, as we realize now, as you say, of course, that things have escalated rather quickly over just the past few days. Adel, Libya's GNA forces, as we understand, have announced a counter-offensive to defend Tripoli. Just explain to us how the forces are going to go about this.
Well, they are, first of all, changing or shifting their approach from a defensive mode to counter-attack and trying to attack Haftar's advances in several locations. The main battle that is going on right now is at what is known in Libya as Checkpoint 27, which is a checkpoint on the main route that connects Tripoli and give it access to the rest of the coastal road to Tunisia and to other Libyan parts and Libyan territories. This is where Haftar's troops have been trying to go and cut that communication, that very important transportation line, so to put a siege on the Western government. But this is where they have been having a very strong hold. They have pushed back more than once Haftar's allies and his LNA troops, pushing them away from this strategic location. They have recalled arms and armored vehicles from Misrata, where there's a very strong base of militants and armed tribes who support the Western government and the GNA forces that are trying to push back Haftar forces. So it seems that there is an escalation and a change of the attitude itself. The entire Libyan forces at the Western government, the government of national accord, are on their highest alert. They have made their limited air force to stand by, but there hasn't been any official announcement if they have used that power as Haftar's army has announced earlier.
Adel Al-Mahraoui, thank you so much joining us there live from Cairo. Now, with clashes already taking place at the old international airport, a battle over Tripoli could cost the lives of many. Here's Adel Al-Mahraoui once more on that story.
Libya is a 1.7 square kilometers area of land. The tens of thousands of troops the LNA and other allied to Faiz al-Sarraj are definitely not enough to maintain a strong grip over that vast land. A war over Tripoli would greatly affect the fragile control both governments have on their territories.
The real battle for Tripoli hasn't started yet. The Libyan National Army hasn't used any real or extensive force. The generals in the LNA have full confidence that they can take over Tripoli. They seek to decrease the duration of the mission because the longer it takes, the larger the losses are for both sides.
Fighters from both rival armies have rallied their weapons around Tripoli as fears of another civil war grow. A war would drain the power of the rival Eastern and Western governments, threatening them of losing some territories. Neither Sarraj nor Haftar want that to happen.
Haftar is just taking advantage of the instability in Algeria. Algeria has strictly objected to any military movement from Haftar, so the main purpose of this escalation is political gain. The continuation of both parties in this conflict depends on the political will of the countries supporting either side rather than actual forces on the ground.
Libya is composed of many armed tribes whose loyalties sway according to their benefits. If Khalifa Haftar engages in a hectic war in Tripoli that drains his power, the general risks losing everything he has achieved. But if he continues the current display of power, more tribes could join him, and that could give him more weight in upcoming political dialogues. Adel Al-Mahraoui, CGTN, Cairo.
Let's turn to Rwanda now, where President Paul Kagame has led ceremonies to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the genocide. Around 800,000 Rwandans were killed during a period of just 100 days in 1994. Here's Wakista Nyabo with more.
Honor of the victims of the genocide perpetrated against the Tutsi.
On this day 25 years ago, Rwanda began sinking into darkness, a darkness marked by horrific killings that targeted members of the Tutsi community. Moderate Hutus were not spared either. At the end of the 100 days, between 800,000 and 1 million people lay dead. President Paul Kagame led leaders from different parts of the world in remembering those who lost their lives and their loved ones.
Official statistics show that Rwanda currently has close to 13 million inhabitants. But in this month of April, we are over 14 million because collectively in our hearts and in our minds, we carry the more than 1 million victims who perished during the genocide.
In 1994, there was no hope, only darkness. Today, light radiates from this place. The only conclusion to draw from Rwanda's story is profound hope for our world. No community is beyond repair, and the dignity of the people is never fully extinguished. 25 years later, here we are, all of us, wounded and heartbroken, yes, but unvanquished.
Ntirizazimampare Your name will never be forgotten as long as I'm here.
The event was held at the Gisozi Memorial Site, where the remains of over 250,000 victims are buried. President Kagame later led the nation in what is locally referred to as a walk to remember. The annual walk is between the National Assembly and the National Soccer Stadium.
This is the light of remembrance, the light of life.
In the stadium, a night vigil will be held in honor of the departed souls. The 1994 genocide was a turning moment for this nation and for Africa. It gave rise to a new Rwanda that continues to scale the heights of success in peace and economic advance. Wilkisa Nyabwa, CGTN in Kigali, Rwanda.
Well, for more on this, we're now joined by CGTN's Wilkista Nyabwa. She's, of course, live with us from Kigali. Wilkista, clearly a very eventful day in Kigali. Just talk us through some of the key events and the highlights of the day.
Thank you, Lindy. Indeed, a very eventful day and an emotional one too, and it's not done just yet. We are right in the middle of Kigali, and it is abuzz with activity because the Walk to Remember has just ended. It had hundreds, perhaps even thousands of Rwandans just walking from Parliament to the Amahoro Stadium to remember those who lost their lives during the Rwanda genocide in April 1994, and it was just one of the many activities that were here today. The day began with President Kagame lighting the remembrance flame at the Kigali Genocide Memorial Site, just where over 250,000 people are buried. And he led a group of dignitaries, among them at least 9 heads of state who visited the site. And then later, but one of the other highlights later when he went to the Kigali Convention Center was when he and other leaders spoke about what lies ahead for Rwanda, what has happened and what lies ahead. And it was very touching, very emotional, as leaders offered messages of support, saying that they were united in grief with Rwanda and that they also understood Rwanda's just efforts to rebuild from this site. One of the remarkable things that Kagame said in his speech was when he spoke about the fact that Rwanda is heartbroken because of these events, but it is not defeated. And he basically spread a message of hope to the Rwandan people and to other people watching at this time. So after that, there was the Walk to Remember, and at this point today there will be a night vigil. Candles will be lit at the Amahoro Stadium, and people will light them in memory of those who died, and also to remind themselves that never again should something like this happen. Lindy.
Very important and emotional day. Thank you so much, Wilkista Nyabwa, joining us there live from Kigali. Well, time now for a short break. Here's what's still ahead on the program. Health campaigners in Uganda push for more radiotherapy machines to accommodate the growing number of cancer patients. And hundreds of tourists climb Cape Town's Table Mountain to raise funds for charity.
For lucrative economic data out of the country, the country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
I'm Penina Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives.
From Nairobi City Center.
News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference. Africa Live. Find your voice. Let's go to Sudan now, where a local behind anti-government demonstrations say security forces have killed at least 5 protesters in the last 24 hours. A spokesperson for the Sudanese Professionals Association, an umbrella group of independent professional unions, says 4 people were killed in the capital city of Khartoum and another protester was killed in the neighboring city of Omdurman, a claim disputed by the government. On Saturday, protesters reached the army headquarters near Bashir's residence in what organizers said was among the largest turnouts in 3 months. They were, however, later dispersed by security forces. The demonstrations began in December over price hikes and food shortages and quickly escalated into calls for President Omar al-Bashir's resignation, posing one of the biggest challenges yet to his nearly 30-year rule. And now to Somalia, where assorted weapons have been seized in a security operation in the capital, Mogadishu. More than 35 people were also arrested in the swoop that was led by the country's police department. This comes as Parliament suspended summons issued to the country's security and defense ministers following protests from a section of parliamentarians.
Somali security agencies confiscated a cache of weapons during an operation conducted in the outskirts of the capital, Mogadishu. The discovered weapons included a range of explosive devices, suicide belts, remote detonators, grenades, cartridges, ammunition, wires, and other IEDs.
In Uganda, health campaigners are pushing for more radiotherapy machines to accommodate the growing number of cancer patients. Figures from Uganda's Cancer Institute show that cases have gone up by 50% in the last 10 years, yet the country still depends on 1 radiotherapy machine. CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga reports.
Harriet Anyango is battling cancer of the muscle. She's been with the disease for 2 years now. Doctors have prescribed chemotherapy as the first line of treatment.
When I go there, when they see my condition is worse, then they told me, you go back, you come back tomorrow. I went there 3 days.
A single dose of chemotherapy costs between $100 to $150 depending on the type of drug prescribed. Harriet is due for radiotherapy, but she may not have it soon because of the high cost of treatment. And this may put her life in danger. She now relies on volunteers for financial support. But besides being costly, accessing radiotherapy service is also a hassle.
This is a slow process. We cannot just get up early in the morning, go to Mulago and access treatment. So through that long process, we've lost people.
Doctors say they are overwhelmed by the numbers.
The number of patients who need radiation actually many. And as per now, we are treating around more than 80 patients per day. And we have 2 shifts.
In 2018, the Kampala Cancer Registry registered over 30,000 new cancer cases and 21,000 deaths.
We are 90% complete at completion stage of constructing modern bunkers with 6 chambers which will house a radiotherapy machine each. This is part of our modernization and expansion of the radiotherapy services to benefit both the nation and the region at large.
And as government moves to prioritize this service, hope for cancer patients like Harriet could be revived. Hilary Ayesiga, CGTN, Kampala.
And let's go to South Africa now, where the world-famous Table Mountain that is situated in Cape Town was the scene of a unique race. Nearly 200 athletes spent most of Saturday walking or running up the mountain to raise funds for charity. Here's Renia Delcam with more.
2, 1, go!
The Cableway Charity Challenge was started by a handful of committed, caring Capetonians wanting to give back to their city. Athletes run or walk a difficult 5.5-kilometer route to the top of the mountain, about 1,000 meters above sea level. They then descend with the Table Mountain cable car before summiting the mountain yet again.
Cableway Charity Challenge is an endurance event for 199 athletes to see how many times they can climb the mountain in one day. So this is our 11th year of the event. We've raised over 8.5 million rand in total, but 1.1 million rand today should be coming in.
There's tough competition every year to see who can complete the most laps up the mountain between sunrise and sunset. But organizers say every runner and walker tackling this grueling circuit is a winner because they're all helping to make a difference in someone's life.
Every single entrant of this event is a hero. They go out there and they raise money for charity. We have nominated charities that we choose every year, and we've done some amazing educational work for kids over the years, and we get such positive feedback that every year we just want to do it again.
We were very proud a few years ago when we were offered the title sponsorship, because it means so much in terms of what we put the athletes through, and that literally every drop of sweat means something in rand value to the charities that is supported through this initiative. And we will continue to support this.
It's always a privilege and honor to do this because I do it every year. And what I saw, like a bunch of amazing people running for charity, and animals and also plants, like the nature is beautiful. So it felt so good. It's for good cause.
Oh, it's a perfect day. Perfect. It's beautiful. So excited about that.
Most competitors completed the trail in 2 hours, with top athletes finishing in about an hour. This year, the prize for the fastest lap was won by a professional trail runner who ran the route in 36 minutes and 8 seconds. The same runner who once ran up Table Mountain a record 12 times in one day. Renee Calm, CGTN, Cape Town, South Africa.
And coming up in your sports news. Kenya progress at the Zone East pre-qualifiers despite a huge loss to Uganda.
Africa, where champions are made, records are broken, legends are born. We're there for every goal, for every knockout, for every step of the way. Match Point, only on CG.